Hey everyone, I'm doing a deep dive today into the neighborhood of Esquimalt in Victoria, BC. Now, this is not going to be your standard realtor tour with beautiful scenery and nothing else to offer. I want to give you an idea of what living in Esquimalt is really like. We'll look at the best and worst neighborhoods, traffic, schools, crime, recreation, everything that makes Esquimalt tick. We'll look at the best place for you to buy a home and invest in Esquimalt and what the future of Esquimalt could look like. My name is Ara Wiley. I make videos like this about Victoria, so if you want to see more of them, please subscribe. Esquimalt is located to the southwest Victoria, and the location is the biggest draw for a lot of people. You get easy access to downtown, but unlike further east like Fairfield and Oak Bay, it's still relatively more affordable. And unlike other downtown adjacent neighborhoods further north like Fernwood, Oakland, or Quadra here, Esquimalt has much better access to the water. Every direction you go, there's waterfront access and great parks, which I think is what living on Vancouver Island and living in Victoria is all about. It's its own municipality, it has a really good friendly community, and there's also a real mix of distinct neighborhoods. The main connections into Esquimalt are the Johnson Street Bridge from downtown, the Bay Street Bridge, Tillicum Bridge, and Craigflower. Traffic does get congested along Craigflower because this is the main artery for people commuting to the West Shore and commuting to View Royal from downtown. The nice thing about the neighborhoods here, sort of south of Craigflower, is there isn't much through traffic except for CFB Esquimalt commutes. There's lots of transit options, bike routes, and more protected bike lanes are being built. Walking or biking to downtown is a big part of life in Esquimalt. Old Esquimalt begins here. This section here is Vic West, which is part of the city of Victoria. Old Esquimalt has a lot of character homes from the early 1900s and many mid-century homes as well. There's some new condos and developments down at the West Bay Quay, and you can walk all along the waterfront here through the Songhees to downtown. The single-family detached homes in Esquimalt, like these ones, are generally on smaller lots than you would find in Saanich, for example. Esquimalt in general is a bit tighter, so who your neighbors are matters a lot more than other parts in Victoria. When I was growing up in Victoria in the 1990s, Esquimalt had a bad reputation. I heard a lot of stories, particularly about Esquimalt High School. Was it rougher back then? Maybe, but that's certainly not the case today, and the stigma is pretty much gone. I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you grew up in Esquimalt. Has it changed, or is it still the same? Let me know in the comments below. Esquimalt neighborhoods have some stark contrast and a lot of variety, which contributed to this perception. You have light industrial areas mixed in with residential. For example, near Flying Squirrel Trampoline Park on Viewfield, which by the way is one of the best places to go take your kids, really tire them out. There's residential homes, light industry, breweries, retail, and the old ENN trail that goes through here. It's all clustered together. You get a real mix and a real urban vibe from this neighborhood. You won't see anything like that in Saanich and Oak Bay, which are much more consistently residential. Esquimalt Road is changing fast with many new condo developments and rental towers. For example, where the infamous Carlton Club stood is now being redeveloped into a 26-story condo tower. Most of the older condos are low-rise 4-story buildings from the 1970s. Personally, I'm wary of older condos, but it's really building specific. Plus, with so many new condos being built, the older ones will become less desirable when they're compared back to back by a buyer to them. Right in the center of Esquimalt is Esquimalt Plaza, which has a grocery store, liquor store, and lots of small restaurants and cafes. The Esquimalt Rec Center, the pool, the library is here. So is Bullen Park, which is home to many annual events like Ribfest, which is a great one. Any of these surrounding neighborhoods give you good access to Esquimalt's amenities, but you'll find the Gorge side to be a little bit further away and disconnected from what's happening in the middle of Esquimalt. CFB Esquimalt was the largest employer in Esquimalt. There's over 6,000 military and civilians working on the base here. Most of them live nearby in nearby base housing, and some live throughout Esquimalt or commute here. The naval base really defines the west side of Esquimalt, and the iconic shipbuilding cranes are visible for miles, and it's a big part of life out here. You might get some noise from drilling or generators depending on how far you are from the base, so if you are buying a home in this area, it's a good idea to check on noise levels during the working hours. Now we'll go down to the southern coast. We've got Sax Point. This is probably one of the most expensive neighborhoods of Esquimalt, with lots of quiet streets and really beautiful character homes and mid-century homes. There's a handful of oceanfront properties that aren't cheap, but certainly not like Oak Bay prices for waterfront. Sax Point Park definitely has to be one of the most beautiful parks in all of Victoria, and everyone should go check that one out. Not many downsides to Sax Point, but as with any coastal area, you're exposed to more wind, and it might be a few degrees cooler than inland. Rock Heights is another great neighborhood of Esquimalt that's seen big increases in property values over the last few years. Lots of 1950s and 1960s mid-century homes here, like these ones perched up on a hill, and some quiet cul-de-sacs. Many homes here have basement suites or suite potential. The Galloping Goose, which is a protected bike lane, runs right through Rock Heights here towards Esquimalt, and then you can bike downtown. Further north is the Gorge Vale in Kinsman Park. The Gorge Golf Course here is the centerpiece of this neighborhood. Like I said, it's a bit of a hike from here to get to Esquimalt Center, so you might end up crossing Tillicum Bridge and doing more shopping on that side of things. The Gorge Waterway is stunning, and you can paddleboard here, and there's even a new dock down at Banfield where people go for a swim. Most of the homes here are mid-century 1950s homes, but like the rest of Esquimalt, there's little pockets of newer homes, older homes, and even some townhomes mixed in as well. There's a few resources when it comes to researching crime, and I'll leave those links below. If you look at the Vic PD crime map, it shows a lot more activity in this part of Esquimalt, closer to downtown, than say further out in Sax Point. Not a huge surprise to see more crime closer to downtown, but something to consider. This includes reported crimes, so a lot of it could be very minor. Esquimalt is definitely a safe place to live. You can use the Fraser Institute to compare schools, but take those ratings with a big grain of salt. I would look to Facebook groups or talking to parents to find out what the schools are really like. I know from past clients and friends, all the French-speaking schools are really great. And in my own research, a lot of people had good things to say about Esquimalt High on Reddit, and Rock Heights is a fantastic hockey program. If you want to track developments, check out the Esquimalt GIS tool. You can see all these new developments and rezoning applications here along Esquimalt Road. I do recommend that anyone buying a home investigate what's being built near it, what could be built near it, what it's zoned for, because Esquimalt is growing so fast, there's really no pockets that won't see some kind of redevelopment. Esquimalt used to be a diamond in the rough, but prices have caught up. I still think it's great value and will only get better. You can never go wrong with a friendly community that's surrounded by water and still has easy access to downtown. There's still detached homes here under $1 million, some with up to 6,000 square foot lots, which will hold their value well since those can be redeveloped. We'll see a lot of multiplex units, townhomes, and duplexes built in Esquimalt for the next few years. I think the industrial areas and the inconsistent areas of Esquimalt that give it its charm will develop over time too, which is both a good thing and a bad thing depending how you look at it. If you're buying a condo, townhome, or detached home, there's definitely a lot to choose from in Esquimalt. And as the population grows, more amenities will be built, better restaurants, better transit. I want to hear your experiences living in Esquimalt and where do you think it's headed in the future. Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.